there, friends. This is Emily Craig, and it is Thursday, the 14th of November, and I'm working on the pedagogy of church. Is church for dummies or what? All right. And I talked a little bit about the stages that I have gone through in pursuing God. All right. I just wanted to know what is going on here. All right. And I started as an evangelical, just believed in Jesus, and then I joined Jehovah's Witnesses and I did Bible study. And then I got into liturgics in the Episcopal Church. But all along I was looking into metaphysics and looking into charisma, looking into the implications of prophecy for our time. So I was doing these things simultaneously, which means that I have kind of a fuzzy feeling for, well, if church was school, what was I getting out of it? And the realization that there is a, quote, God, there is a mind, there is a being who is the progenitor of this world and is interested in the people here, and there are systems or there are programs or there are processes for getting through this experience and getting some good out of it, somehow. That occurred to me very young. I was about 6. So when I was in Venice, California on vacation with my grandparents, and I was walking along the pier and I ran into a woman who had a Bible, and she read to me from Matthew, and I said to myself, this was July 1950, that makes sense. I think I want to go with that. And so from then on I said a little, now I lay me down to sleep prayer, until I was a teenager. And thankfully, I was never abused. I was never abused. And I knew kids who were abused. And so I put 2 and 2 together, and I kept going with that, now I lay me down to sleep prayer, because it worked. Okay, it worked. All right. Then in my 20s, I got serious about Bible study with Jehovah's Witnesses. And after about 12 years, I hit the wall there because they had boundaries. They had hard boundaries around what I was allowed to read and study. And I wasn't about staying with those boundaries. After all, Jesus had taught, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." So I read the 2 Babylons by Hislop. I read the Urantia book and the Oaspi and the Course in Miracles a couple of times. I read a lot of those other sacred books. And that was nice, but it didn't create the progression that I'm finally seeing in hindsight, okay? So if conversion to Christianity is kindergarten, and basic Bible study is 4th grade, and applying what you learn in the scriptures topically gets applied in your life so that you actually see some results that work. If that's 7th grade, and then if you can broaden your experience and look at what the liturgy is about and what it's trying to do, namely on the weekend when you're not working at something else, you come together with other people like yourself and you remind yourself of the covenant that you have adopted. And you remind yourself of the various aspects of it that are meaningful to the whole community. So that's when liturgics gets put to work as charisma, which is about 10th grade. Okay? And from then on, we're in Pilgrim's Progress. Or we're in the meditations of the Benedictines, or Ellen White, or Joseph Smith, or what's that guy? Emmanuel Swedenborg. Swedenborg, I remembered. Okay, you're in these meditations, or the Essenes, okay, or the Falun Gong, okay, the meditations of the devotion of the people who have bought in to how to do this connectivity, this networking with the cosmic dimension. Now, in the Catholic Church, you get connected to saints. Also in the Orthodox Church, you get connected to saints, and at the same time, they warn you about demons, which is an interesting dichotomy here, because the thoughts of saints are very different from the thoughts of demons. Demons are here to get you riled and angry and energized energized any way they can. And the saints are here to calm you down and get you to let go, let God, and relax and accept your experience, right? So that there is a pedagogical progression of going to church. There really is, in the Judeo-Christian tradition. The problem is the cognitive overload of the imperial society, the United Nations, the Council on Foreign Relations, the New World Order, the European Union, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the entrenched blue pill leftists are showering us with more sensory data than we can accommodate, given that we have this pedagogical process we're going through. Now, there are some churches that have successfully negotiated the problem between cognitive overload and their devotional practice. And they are essentially the Anabaptists, the Amish Hutterites, Mennonites, and Old Order Quakers. Although, in the case of the Amish, their scriptures, being in German, are so rigid that the tradition has not had any breathing space, and people either take it or leave it, they come or they go. But the group, the denomination themselves, are not growing, okay? Old Order Quakers are a lot more open-minded, and in fact, they serve as conflict and terrorist negotiators. They serve in conflict and dispute analysis and resolution. That's what the Quakers meeting does, not the Quaker Church, okay? And so one of the things I have done is become familiar with the different churches, the way you would look at the different departments in a hierarchy, all right? The different departments in the United States government, the different departments in the state legislature, okay? And the hierarchy of the church has different departments that we call denominations, and they have, as a mission statement, not made their pedagogy clear to the people who walk into one department or another department or one sect or another denomination, okay? But what comes first is conversion from the imperial, cynical, sadistic world, and what comes after that is studying what the law said about behavior and what Jesus said about truth and connecting that with one's living responses to circumstances and stimuli, and then moving on into understanding the liturgy and understanding the charisma and getting into the metaphysics. You see, you go from kindergarten to university if you're taking your worship seriously. Now, we all know people who get into one particular part of the program and get stuck there. And of course, the denominations do everything they can to make people get stuck there because they need the donations. Okay. One very troubling thing that has crossed my desk is what the Pope is calling for, the amalgamation and unification of the Catholic Church with Islam. All right, now, I thought about this quite a bit, and I think I've come up with a hypothesis how this happens. Okay. In the first place, Islam was crafted by the Jesuit order several hundred years ago. Why? What for? Well, it has to do with protection rackets, which is called jizya in the Quranic idiom, jizya. And in jizya, people pay Muslims so that the Muslims don't attack them. It's about money, right? Now, let's look at the church right now. The Catholic Church is cash poor. It has too many properties and not enough money to keep things rolling. So what can they do about that? Well, for one thing, they can create more martyrs and saints, because martyrs and saints are the foundation for all their holidays and festivals. And how do they create martyrs and saints? They align next to, you keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. They align next to the Quran that teaches domination and taqiyya, double dealing, and a domination is jihad and jizya. They snuggle up to a church that's going to cause them problems so that they can collect the donations in order to help the people deal with the problems. You know how that works? When the New World Order creates disease in order to fund the agencies that then help the people who have disease. They create the unstable weather so that they then fund the agencies that help the people deal with the unstable weather. This is a round robin. It's called problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem, and then they create the agency to help with the problem, and that becomes their permanent solution. This is part of Marxism. Okay, and so the church is, by adopting Islam, creating the persecution problem that the church will then help relieve. That's what's going on, and that's why the Pope is saying what he is. It's problem, reaction, solution, and it's part of the empire. And the empire, which is just version 6 or 7 of the Babylonian Empire going back to after the flood, okay, is a maritime admiralty corporate statute entity in which business is just business, you know, if it's prostitution or child sex trafficking or body parts marketing or drug running or gun running or serial wars, you know, proxy wars, it's all just business, man. That's what the empire intends to foist upon the people of this world. And fortunately, all of our sacred and holy books, the Bible included, have the same thing to say about the empire's ethic for human trafficking and slavery and domination. And it's called the flood of Noah's day. It's called mud flood. It's called fire and brimstone from heaven. It's called reset. When human society gets to the point that the empire is rearing its ugly head again, well, that's when things get crazy. And they're crazy. Okay. So, I don't know about snuggling up to any particular church because they always need money and they always need help and they always need to take more than they give. But I do have quite a bit of success with prayer and focusing on one problem at a time and fixing it with the tool that we call truth. Okay. There's the health problem we have to fix with the tool we call truth. And there's the financial problems that we have to resolve somewhere because we have to not just be good people, we have to be good for something. Okay, so we have to be good for something. We have a skill, we have an ability, we help and we generate our own personal revenue. We have to think in terms of our relationships and maintaining our families and sometimes our friends. Okay, so there's plenty of work to do. And so if one is serious about the pedagogy of spirituality and serious about health and serious about stability in a crazy world, there's really no time for the TV and the movies and the video games and the athletic competitions and the bread and circuses, okay, that the system wants to throw at you. Honestly, the Anabaptists are very wise to keep all that away and out of their homes. They don't have TVs, radios, video games, or any of that. I know they have internet because a lot of them have internet businesses. So they're not ignorant people. They're very smart and they're self-sufficient. I think self-sufficiency is a great topic to get into. In fact, I published one book on self-sufficiency, how to build yourself a home with food, a food supply and health sufficiency, and how to even make your own bomb shelter or outdoor refrigeration system. Okay, we've got to look at stuff like that. And never mind what's going on with Paris fashions and the latest celebrity gossip. Let's get real. Let's stay real and see where that goes, because that's kind of unusual nowadays. Everybody's playing their games. We get used to it. All right. So that's where this is actually Church for Dummies version, or part 2. That's what I'll call this. And I hope I'm making some sense to you. And you know, YouTube doesn't send these out to anybody. They do not distribute my videos unless my friends distribute them. They do not get distributed, even though I put links up everywhere. So that's just all part of the game. We just have to live with it. See you later. Bye-bye.